get started as soon as on time as we can. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carrie. I served as an environment volunteer in Paraguay from 2015 to 2017, so not that long ago. And I'm currently on the board for Friends of Paraguay, so I'll be kind of kicking things off today. If you attended last month's event, or if you attend a lot of Zoom events, you'll notice that on this one you haven't been muted on entry. So we ask that if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. You know the drill. We are currently recording the meeting, and then we'll be sending that to everyone who registered after this when we get the recording. So we're very excited today to welcome our environment team. We've got Ellie Cabrera, our program director, Alistair Curlin, who's program specialist, Gloria Pena, the program assistant, and Klaus Brem, who's a technical trainer for the environment sector. And we're going to kick things off with an icebreaker. And we're going to have, I think Maggie's going to share it here in just a second. All right. So the only right answer is Caguasu on this one. So if you go to menti.com on either another browser or on your phone and type in that code 48544991, you should be able to answer this question, and then we will present the answers when we get a fair amount in. Oh, we got one. Yeah. There we go, Caguasu. I like to see it. Love to see it. But in all seriousness, you can put wherever you serve. Oh, wow, Itapúa. San Pedro doesn't surprise me.
Now, if all of those San Pedro people were not so insistent on putting San Pedro the best, then they'd all show up together and it would maybe be a little bigger.
Right. Just give it a couple more seconds here. It looks like we've got a lot of Itapúa folks and Caguasu Cordillera now, and San Pedro. And I'm sure some of these departments probably were off limits when I was serving, which always interests me to see folks who served a longer time ago in different like Canandaiju. Very cool. All right, I think we can move on to the next one. So now here we want to know maybe what projects you did in your community that were the most popular, or maybe the ones you did the most. If you see something, and you should be able to refresh your screen if you don't see this question. If you see something if you don't see something that you worked on in your community, please put it in the chat, because I know I was working off my experience in the environment sector, so things may have changed quite a bit since I was a volunteer. Okay, environmental education. Basura Cero, I see in the chat. Yeah, I think I thought about that with the All right, environmental education. I did a lot of environmental education myself, so I'm not surprised to see that one. Gardening, tree planting seems to be the top three. And we've got some great things coming in through the chat as well. Nope, no one did biodigesters, huh? Interesting. Or no one did them enough to answer that anyway. All right, so it looks like those first three are really what people did the most. So just interesting to see. Now I'm going to give a little bit of an overview on Friends of Paraguay because we're kind of the host of this event, and then after that I'll hand it over to the environment team. So we're going to bring up a couple slides on that. All right, so Friends of Paraguay is a nonprofit 501c3 that was founded back in 1987 by some of the people who are on this call, probably. And our mission is to promote cooperation and cross-cultural exchange between the US and Paraguay. We're made up of a network of RPCVs and other folks who are connected to Peace Corps Paraguay in some way. We do have a $15 annual membership fee, and a big chunk of that goes toward grants to Paraguayan organizations. And we have some of our board members are in DC, but we always like to stress that we're an organization that really spans the whole US and Paraguay as well. So some of our 2020 highlights, we started a mentor program. As everyone likely knows, the Peace Corps was evacuated in March of 2020, about a year ago. And we've connected some of the evacuated volunteers to other Friends of Paraguay members and our community in general to kind of connect, talk about career, talk about even adjusting back to the US. And that was pretty successful, and we're looking to maybe revisit that program and add some more matches to it. We started virtual happy hours last year, kind of in light of both the pandemic and wanting to connect folks across the country, because our organization we're not centered in one location. So virtual events are always a great thing, and we've been featuring Paraguayan organizations that way as well, which has been really, really interesting for me, learning about some organizations I didn't know existed or that came to be after I left the country. Last year, we awarded $500 to 2 grant recipients. The Super Kids Foundation has been a recipient in the past as well, and they've got some really great projects going on. So always great to check Super Niños out. We had some of the Niños on the call too, which was great. Oh, they were on a happy hour, excuse me. We gave them a grant, but they were also on a happy hour, and we had some Niños join us. And then a new grant recipient for us last year was a group called Bloque de Mujeres, who was doing an environmental cleanup project in the Asuncion area. And for 2021, a lot of you were probably at last month's event with Peace Corps Paraguay and Office of the Third Goal. We had over 200 people there, which was awesome. So that was definitely, I think, our first major highlight of this year. And yep, go to the next. So here are our board members. A big chunk of them are on the call, if not all. I didn't get to check all the attendees, but again, we're not all just some of us are in Washington, D.C., but some of us are in North Carolina, Ohio, Connecticut, Delaware. We've got New York. We've got people from pretty much all over. We'd love to have I think we have someone from out the West Coast on our board now as well. And so this is a really great group of people that I'm just starting to get to know some of them, and some of them know for a bit. But yeah, Stacy's West Coast. Yeah, I was remembering that, and I didn't want to say it and have it not be correct, but I was like, I'm pretty sure. So ways to get involved with Friends of Paraguay: you can join our Facebook group, and you make sure you answer the membership questions if you do so. Just a side note, you can subscribe to our Inyan Tea, which is a monthly newsletter. And please let us know if you'd like to share a story there, because we're always looking to share stories from RPCVs, either from when they were in Paraguay or what they're doing now. And then you could become a member through MPCA using peacecorpsconnect.org. And For those of you on the call last month, you'll remember we were doing a giveaway. We were giving people a month to join and win a $25 gift card. So today is actually the last day. That was exactly a month ago. So if you join today, you could be entered to win a $15 gift card. We're going to do a little raffle. So yeah. So I'm going to hand things off to Rebecca Kidd, who is also a pretty recently returned volunteer, and she's going to lead our next icebreaker.
All right, I've been sort of trying to translate a little bit for any Spanish speakers that we have on, but I don't think I have the ability to talk and do that simultaneously. I'll let you know if this monkey can ever dance that well. So we have a couple of extra questions, and hopefully everyone can participate. Present in Guarani. Oof. I don't got it. I don't know that I ever had it that good, but I certainly don't got it now. So if we go to the menti.com again, and the code this time is going to change. So it's that in the top of the screen share, you'll see here 72623356. And this time we want to know, what was your favorite Paraguayan flora or fauna? Tu flora o fauna preferida de Paraguay. También los paraguayos se pueden ponerse sus preferidos. So we'll take a couple minutes and see how that pops up.
Important note, you can only submit one time. So really careful with your favorite.
All right, let's see what we have going here. Ooh, lots of Taju, Ka'a, Macaco. I don't remember that being discussed while I was there. The Samo'u, which I didn't see until the very end of my time in Paraguay, and I didn't believe that it could have been. Lapacho, Taju, Jacaranda. So mostly plants. There we go, Jaguarete, Way, Uña de Gato, the Piropio bird. Can anyone help us with what's that? This sounds like they're whistling at you. Is that the bell bird? Anyone? Am I the only one talking?
There was I was thinking of the Tero. But...
Tero. Oh man, one of those almost attacked me in Encarnacion once.
They're angry.
Let's see. Taju, Lapacho. What else have I not seen? Uburaputa. Urukuja. Oof. All right. Are we ready to move to the next one, Carrie? Or do we? Taju sa uju. It's been a while since I've pronounced those Y's.
I think we can. It's been holding steady at 29 answers. So.
All right. So now we need to rank your favorite gardening or farming practices. Favorite gardening practices. Doble excava, abonos verdes, cobertura, compostaje, asociación de cultivos y venenos caseros. Let's see where double digging makes it on this list. Ooh. Oh man. composting, that is kind of a surprise. Because flipping that bed was hard work in that 95-degree heat that Howard was just telling us about. But without surprise, and Carrie, you called it, double digging is right there at the bottom. It's the most fun.
Yeah. It's definitely useful, but it's difficult. So,
Cool. Well, thank you guys for participating. And
thanks,
I'm going to turn it
Rebecca.
back over to you, Carrie.
Yeah, well, I'm basically just going to turn it over to the environment team. Again, we're so happy that you could join us just to share a little bit about what's been happening in Paraguay lately. Some people served really recently, and some people I think it's been a while. So this should be interesting for everyone. So I'll turn it over to you all.
Hola de nuevo a todos. Realmente muy emocionada, muy feliz de poder ver rostros que hace rato no veía, que extrañaba, que extraño muchísimo. Yo pido permiso, pero voy a hablar en un yopará, español, guaraní, así es que me van a ayudar todos los que todavía seguro tienen fresco en la memoria el español y el guaraní, para quienes a lo mejor ya no está tan fresco. Pero bueno, realmente queremos que este sea un espacio de compartir, y en ese espacio de compartir queremos contarle un poco dónde estamos en el sector ambiental, cuál es nuestra hoja de ruta, y arrancar diciendo que en el 2018 comenzamos un proceso de reflexión. Reflexionamos un poco de todo ese tiempo que veníamos implementando por decirlo así, nuestro plan de proyecto, especialmente en los últimos 6 u 8 años. Con Alistair recién cumplimos 10 años, entonces teníamos bastante para reflexionar. Y todo ese periodo del 2018 fue un periodo de mucha escucha en todos los niveles, desde los que están mano a mano con ustedes, los voluntarios, hasta las instituciones y nuestros socios. Y en ese tiempo escuchamos, y no podemos dejar de mencionar, algunos asuntos ambientales que nos dimos cuenta iban tomando mucho más protagonismo. Y decíamos, bueno, ¿dónde nosotros podemos encontrar nuestro nicho? Quiero pasar nomás a 2019, hace poquito. Arrancábamos el 2019 con el agua hasta el cuello. Inundaciones, 70.000 familias que estaban siendo afectadas, casas de voluntarios que escuchábamos que las tormentas habían llevado. En las noticias, Itapúa, Paraguarí, Alto Paraná y Misiones estaban siendo los más afectados. Cateura se había desbordado, las comunidades ribereñas estaban sufriendo. En ese mismo año ya saltábamos hacia más o menos noviembre, 5.000 focos de incendio en el Alto Chaco. Los eventos extremos estaban tomando más y más protagonismo en Paraguay. 2020 no solamente llega COVID, para nosotros nos dicen los datos que 50 años después experimentamos la mayor sequía en Paraguay. La mayor sequía en Paraguay. 2 días consecutivos están bien registrados 43 grados centígrados. Arrancábamos así. En septiembre, muchos de ustedes nos ayudaron. 9.000 focos de incendios. Más de 15.000 focos de incendio en el Alto Chaco y Pantanal. BBF nos reportaba que el récord histórico de incendios estábamos sufriendo en la región. Entonces, de vuelta veíamos cómo estos eventos extremos estaban tomando protagonismo. La deforestación no se quedaba atrás. Sin embargo, se podía ver algunos picos, pero también nuestros colegas de BBF nos reportan que el 2019 la deforestación de alguna manera no tuvimos tanto protagonismo, se mantuvo ahí. Pasó el agua, pasó el fuego y aparece un asunto ambiental no nuevo, pero que tomó demasiado protagonismo. Cúmulos y cúmulos de basura taponando todos los registros. 3 personas que fueron aprendidas porque se encontró que el incendio no fue de forma natural, sino que por una simple quema de basura. Toda la cuenca del lago de Upacaraí, el cerro Coinchonorí, ardió en llamas porque se quemó la basura. En el Chaco Central también se pudo comprobar. Entonces iba tomando un protagonismo, un nuevo asunto ambiental aquí para nosotros, que ya veníamos escuchando en el 2018 en las entrevistas con nuestros contrapartes, con nuestros socios, con las municipalidades, el tema de residuos, el tema de basura. Pero también a la par que escuchamos esa situación, escuchamos una sociedad paraguaya que se mueve. Un hito. 60 organizaciones el año pasado se unieron bajo el liderazgo de BBF para lograr que el Congreso apruebe la ley de deforestación cero. Entonces podemos decir de que a la par estamos movilizándonos. Una organización en Asunción se instala, Soluciones Ecológicas, con un enfoque en el residuo, trabajando en este nivel con las empresas, con los bancos. Hoy ya tiene sede también en Encarnación, tiene proyectos en Ciudad del Este. Entonces estamos diciendo, bien, tenemos socios que están trabajando en este nivel, en este tema que ahora se impone en la mesa, que es los residuos, la basura. Tenemos un medio local que de gran alcance como ABC Color lanza una campaña, la herencia que nos importa, plantar árboles. Entonces, de vuelta, el tema de la plantación de árboles es un tema importante. Entonces, balanceando un poco estas situaciones de eventos extremos, en donde incluso tuvimos una comunidad en Alto Verá, Santa Ana, que fue evacuada por los incendios y familias ribereñas, vemos también que hay una sociedad mucho más consciente, mucho más activa, donde hay muchas oportunidades todavía para trabajar. ¿Y qué nos dijeron en el 2018 los entrevistados en este nivel de trabajo? Queremos seguir teniendo el apoyo de los voluntarios. Va, Ere fue la pregunta que nosotros le hicimos. Va, Ere picó, ¿por qué querés? Y la respuesta nos sorprendió el hallazgo. Los voluntarios son neutros. No tienen una historia, no tienen un partido político, no buscan solamente su propio bienestar, buscan el de la comunidad. Nos conectan, nos unen a otras instituciones, nos inspiran. Y algo para mí como paraguaya demasiado importante, y ese es el valor agregado que ustedes nos dan, nos dijo, Pena Pemonday, ustedes nos roban, nos enseñan la transparencia en un comité, nos enseñan cómo manejarnos transparentemente en la escuela, en el colegio. Y ese hizo un clic en mi mente, porque no solamente estamos promoviendo temas técnicos, sino valores. Una comunidad que está sintiendo que la transparencia de alguna manera es gracias a ese apoyo. Con quienes los voluntarios saben trabajar, y todos los entrevistados coincidieron con los niños y con los jóvenes. Entonces, de vuelta, ahí está nuestra oportunidad. Va ela oyapocuaba la voluntario. ¿Qué sabe hacer? Saben plantar árboles, saben hacer educación ambiental y nos dan ejemplos concretos de cómo manejar nuestros residuos, nuestras basuras. Entonces, este nuevo plan de proyecto de alguna manera buscó compilar todas las fortalezas que ya teníamos y hacerlo aún más fuerte. Y ahí nace nuestro nuevo plan de proyecto. Y para pasarle a mis compañeros, les dijimos qué necesitan, con qué herramienta necesitan llegar los voluntarios a su comunidad, qué ellos tienen que traer después de ese entrenamiento. A Nina Elie preocupa. Tienen que integrarse a la cultura. Upei o aprendeta o ñotula ubura o ya por las otras cosas. Integración cultural. Entonces, eso es lo que más importa para las comunidades con quienes trabajamos día a día. Y así nace este plan de proyecto que mis compañeros van a compartir, con ese abordaje y ese enfoque de los valores y de seguir haciendo bien lo que sabemos hacer y darle siempre ese valor agregado de promover la transparencia en el trabajo. Jaupea ya compartí y le cedo a mi colega Alistair para que pueda compartir un poco más seguro JE inglés.
Gracias, Ellie. So as Ellie was talking about, we did our redesign. And so I'd like to give a big shout out to a few RPCVs, Chance Wilcox, who was a coordinator when we were in the redesign process, Eric Lopreet, who participated in the small group of volunteers who were there for redesign week and later became our coordinator when we were going through the transition. Emmy Oliver, Bridget Tam, and Lenny Sinke, who were all part of that small group as well. And also Sarah Easton, who was also our coordinator, who was helping with the transition as well. But a huge thanks to David Wood, who's on this phone call, who at the time was the Environmental Program Specialist in Washington, and he's an RPCV from Paraguay. So huge thank you to David Wood as well. Always great to see you, man. So talking a little bit about the three pillars that Ellie mentioned. So obviously environmental education, working with youth. And so volunteers are trained to go into schools and complement the activities that teachers are already doing with fun and dynamic activities. But then we've also partnered with Para la Tierra, an organization who's present today, and we'll be speaking a little bit later. And then later on, there will be another happy hour a few weeks from now, where they'll be featured. They have an initiative called Voices of Nature, Voces de la Naturaleza. And this focuses on creating eco clubs that focus on youth environmental leadership, forming green leaders. So people that aren't necessarily environmental engineers, aren't necessarily biologists, but they have their leaders who have that green mindset. And so working with Para la Tierra has been a great experience. And I'd like to ask our tech trainer, Klaus Brem, to explain a little bit about how we train our volunteers on environmental education and eco clubs.
Okay, gracias, Alistair. Okay, first, hello, everybody. It's so good to see so many familiar faces, and I'm very pleased to be here. Okay, so environmental education changed a lot since I started back with G50. That time we had Aspirantes en Acción. You might remember that during training. That was like a self-directed time when trainees could pretty much come up with whatever they wanted, which was pretty cool. I mean, I remember so many great projects. But over time that changed a little bit. So now we have community engagement time, which I really like because it's more directed, and it's a good way to learn and implement PACA from one side. What Ellie was mentioning about community engagement, like getting involved, being known in the community. And at the same time, the tech component of that is the Eco Clubes. So part of the pre-service training now is that all the aspirantes have to have an Eco Club, and that's the way they start learning and practicing. The good thing is they have their partners just next to them. They have us, the staff, to help. They have the language facilitators who can help them with whatever questions they have. So that's a good way to direct it, because from what we see, Eco Clubes is like an umbrella project. It's like everything else they're learning, like planting trees or basura cero, whatever, is part of Eco Clubs. So I really like that approach, because I think it gives the aspirantes a little bit more of practice and like safe ground. I think to, if they have questions, if they don't feel comfortable. Yeah, and Para la Tierra is great. I mean, they have they come into training. We have a session with the staff from them. They have a great curriculum with so many activities. Emily gonna talk a little bit more about that later on, Sophia as well. But it's great because it's like there is so many activities aspirantes or volunteers can later do with youth. So it's having that is just a massive. it's very great. Thanks.
Thank you, Klaus. And as a result of the great job that the training center does, and also we reinforce these in the in-service trainings, and just in 2019, there were more than 30 echo clubs and 360 youth participants. So really getting out there and reaching a wide scope of youth. So the second pillar that Ellie mentioned was trash, waste management, manejo de residuos. And we have a program, I believe it was mentioned in the chat by Sarah Easton, Basura Cero, which is an initiative that focuses on community-based social marketing to achieve behavior change regarding waste management. And in 2019, 84 schools in eight departments and 25 districts did some sort of waste management activity, but at least 30 throughout the last few years have participated specifically in a Basura Cero project, which is based in schools, as set up as a competition that could be between schools or between grades within a school. It focuses on having a point system for cleaning the patio, for not burning trash, for separating different types of, or classifying different types of trash, also having a garden or composting, so on and so forth. If anybody would like to learn more about it, I can send lots of information, but I'd like to ask Klaus to share a little bit about how we're training volunteers and trainees on Basura Cero.
I think when we start with like the trainees making like interviews or just like digging into their community to see like how trash management is done in Paraguay, to see the difference between here in the States, and using that like a starting point to say like, okay, there's so much organic waste. What can we do with it? We don't have to burn it, you know? So we can make composting. So it's like starting little projects in their community. And then the Basura Cero is like the umbrella project now for waste management, but we still use the 3 R's. Who can remember the 3 R's? Pretty much everyone, I guess. But we're focusing more on reducing, because I think, or we think that's like the main goal. We have to start to make people think that they have to reduce plastic and other stuff we don't really need. So that's the way we train. Thanks.
Thank you, Klaus. And I'll be brief with this one because Klaus is our tree guru, but tree planting. Basically, obviously, we know tree planting is important, and what we decided to do was kind of look at it as a holistic approach. It's learning how to plant trees and how to work with people to plant trees, not the what nor the why, just the how. So how do you work with someone to plant a tree? And so we partnered up with the National Forestry Institute, Instituto Forestal Nacional, Infona, to work with their regional offices, and now they provide a lot of support for our volunteers in the field and their communities. And so when we train volunteers on our trainees on planting trees in tree nurseries, we teach them the basics. We do not teach them different systems because we want them to reach out to the local Infona offices so that they get that local support to create that sustainable connection between the community and the regional office, so that there's going to be that relationship created, and the volunteers simply, as Ellie was talking about before, connecting different people with different institutions. Since 2010, we planted, conservatively, well over 200,000 trees. But now we're really focusing on the sustainability of it and really working on making sure that they survive. What's the follow-up? What's the sustainability aspect of it? And that's where Infona comes in. And just last year, we planted more than 24,000 trees in more than 40 communities. And that's a lot of, it's been done thanks to a huge effort from Klaus and the training staff. So Klaus, take it away.
Okay, we start again with trees down here are different from the States. So we start with native trees. And the way we do it now is that each trainee gets like a tree assigned, and he has like a couple of weeks to make research, and he has to present the name of it, why it's important, what you can do with it, a drawing. So it's more like every trainee gets their own tree. So I'm Taji Rosado, or I'm Urapita. So at week 7 of training, each trainee has it's like a gallery walk, and everybody has to present their own tree, which is pretty cool. Thomas, you remember that?
Remember that? I did team ball.
You did team ball, okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly why we did this. So everybody remembers its tree. I'm pretty sure chance would be yerba mate tree, but okay, that's like for the native trees. And the other big thing we do is we don't do gardening anymore. That changed. Instead of gardening, we have much more focus on nurseries. So the trainees have small groups of 4 or 5 trainees, and each of them have their own nursery. And this is to show that we don't, you guys know better than I how hard it is sometimes to get seedlings from Infona or whatnot if you're like in the middle of Itapua or wherever. So that's like a way to shortly train them on how they can make their own seedlings. I went to the training center a few weeks ago, and the trees from Capiatatu, it's like a forest right now. It's beautiful. The trees are huge. Thomas, I have to send you a picture. So that's the other very, very great thing, because that way they can like really see like how the seedlings look like when they're growing, how much sun they need, how much water they need, what's a weed, what's a tree, how a Urapita is different from a timbo. Then we have also there we have recycling. We use Tetra Paks or other things like for macetas. So they learn transplanting. And then the other cool thing we did last time is we went to Doña Angela. They have like a agroforestry system. That's where the trainees from C2 learned how to plant trees, like the distance and everything. So that was very cool too. Yes, Maggie, that's right. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Klaus. And so we talked a lot about how we really focus on working with partners, connecting communities to partners. And so I'd like to invite Gloria Pena to speak a little bit about the many, many varied and different partnerships that the environment sector has with both the government as well as NGOs. Adelante, Gloria.
Okay, thank you, Alistair. Hi, everyone. So nice to see known faces. You are really missed, guys, believe me. Well, I think, as you know, the environment sector doesn't work alone at all. We are very happy to say that we have about 7, 8 partnerships signed with different organizations. They are Para la Tierra and Infona, which are our main partners right now, I would say, for the volunteer service, virtual volunteer service we are doing with Para la Tierra, and also Infona that we are working with. Another organizations are A Todo Pulmón, Procosara, Senatur, and the latest memorandum of understanding we signed was last year during the pandemic with MADES, which is the Ministerio del Ambiente and Desarrollo Sustentable. After many, many years trying to do this, we finally did it last year. Also, even though we don't have like a formal a memorandum of understanding with Paraguay, they're always open and willing to help volunteers. You know, Ellie and Alistair come from that organization, so they're always willing to help us. But now, how do they collaborate with Peace Corps and particularly with the environment sector? In many ways, but practically technical wise. I mean, working or inviting them for ISTs, PDM, I don't know, with PST as well. They provide us trees for reforestation. We invite them to communities to teach volunteers and their communities different techniques. And also remember that many of these organizations supported heavily our initiative Paraguay Verde in the past that we stopped doing for I don't know what reason, but they supported us a lot. Also, these organizations work very closely with the government, and they create policies to protect Paraguay, and particularly to protect certain areas that are under threat for different reasons. They also work with rural families and promote yerba mate plantation as an extra income for these rural families. And well, so I would say that we as a sector have enough partnerships, and we can just pull out one of our partners whenever we need. as a sector and also to support our volunteers. If you have questions, more questions about this, I can answer after the presentation because I think we have like a few minutes of chatting. Thank you.
Gracias, Gloria. And then briefly, I'd like to just mention one last big initiative that we had 2020 prior to the pandemic. It was a dream of Ellie and mine for many, many years to return to the Chaco. And then Howard Line came along, and it was also a dream of his to return to the Chaco after his experience being country director in Bolivia. And so working with WWF Paraguay, they kind of like right coincidentally when Howard arrived said, hey, we'd like to have volunteers in the Chaco. And so we looked into it. We went up to Loma Plata, we went up to Philadelphia many different times, met a lot of different people. And eventually we ended up signing 4 third-year extension volunteers to the municipality in Philadelphia, as well as to the municipality and to what's known as the Cooperación Vecinal of the Cooperativa Chortitzer in Loma Plata. And those 4 volunteers, and I see 2 of them right in the middle of my screen right now, Ali Bell and Dylan Kintish, were assigned to Philadelphia to work on environmental education, waste management, and also support their Plan de Ordenamiento Territorial for 6 months, which is unfortunately cut short. And then Brandon Gustafson and Sarah Kaufman were assigned to Loma Plata to work with those organizations I mentioned, once again on waste management, environmental education. And this was a way that WWF Paraguay supported us through basically contacts and things like that. And then we supported them because we were helping them to achieve some goals in their project. And so that kind of transitions into the other big thing from 2020, which is virtual service. And we mentioned a little bit about it in the previous meeting, but virtual service is a way for evacuated volunteers to reconnect with organizations in their host country and work virtually through Zoom, through WhatsApp, and kind of support their different initiatives. And so we're working with Para la Tierra in the environment sector and working on a monitoring evaluation protocol, as well as creating an incentive program for youth and facilitator retention. And Emily Donaldson is on, I don't see her on my screen right now, but Emily Donaldson is going to share a little bit of a few of her thoughts. And then Sofia Benanis-Myers from Para la Tierra is going to speak a little bit about her perspective. So Emily, if you're there, adelante.
Hi everyone, hola de Wyoming, Bayaticopio. I am environmental volunteer 2017 to 2020. I was evacuated because of COVID. I see some of my G52 mates on the call and a lot of other familiar faces. And I started virtual service program with Helen Gerard, who was on the phone call, I think, Ty Schroeder and Derek Shapiro. And we initially started off just the 4 of us working with Para la Tierra in phase 2, which started this February. Paraguay Aprende was also roped in, and we continued on as well with Para la Tierra. Thomas Samuelson was on the call, and then Caleb Carr also joined the team with Ty. And so what they're doing is incentive and retention for Para la Tierra. So looking at a lot of the issues with the eco clubs is having this retention, keeping kids coming back at every meeting. And so the idea for them is to incentivize them and facilitators and even parents to continue that participation long term. And a good part of that, of their work, is also looking at the curriculum, organizing it, providing training materials for the facilitators and teachers too. And then on our end, Helen and I have been working on monitoring and evaluation. So we're looking at the effectiveness of both the curriculum, which is Voces de la Naturaleza, and then the program itself. So how well does the Eco Club program run? A lot of nitty-gritty data stuff. We did survey work. This phase, we're working on interviews. I'm gonna keep it short and just lay out the logistics, but I'll leave it open for questions later on too if you want to go into depth more.
So Sophia, would you like to jump in and give the PLT perspective?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this happy hour. It's really interesting to meet all of you. So my name is Sofia Benanis-Myers. I'm the head of operations here at PLT. it's been an honor, honestly, to participate in this virtual service and working so closely with Peace Corps Paraguay and the 6 volunteers that Emily has mentioned. And a huge, huge thank you to all the volunteers. You've worked really hard, and it's really been an impressive experience. So we've worked closely with Peace Corps Paraguay for the last 3-4 years with our Voces de la Naturaleza program. And before COVID, we reached 600 children every weekend, so in 40 communities in southern Paraguay. And then when all the Peace Corps volunteers were evacuated, like, what do we do now? How can we continue having an impact on these children in Paraguay with no facilitators, no eco clubs? And our program is growing more than ever, but there's always more to do. There's always more to improve. And so participating in this virtual service was a really interesting idea from Peace Corps. And then we came up with these 2 programs that Alistair and Emily have talked about. They've worked so hard. They've had amazing ideas. What's really interesting is that they've all served in Paraguay, so they know Paraguay. Some of them have had eco clubs, and they come with fresh set of ideas to help us improve our program. So it was a completely new challenge. We had no idea how this virtual service was going to work. It was completely new for Peace Corps, but it was completely new for PLT as well. And I think that's something that the pandemic has taught us, is to be flexible and creative. And I think this virtual service is a perfect example. So phase 1 went really well. We were in constant communication with the volunteers. We had, several different meetings, presentations, and the results were really, really impressive. I mean, thanks to all of you, the 6 of you, you've made, really, really hard work. And now in phase 2, we started, like Emily said, in February. We're on week 4 or 5 now, and we already have amazing progress and results. So it's really interesting to work with these volunteers. The program is growing more than ever, and we're hoping that when eco clubs open again, schools open up again, we can have a better impact than what we had before. So thank you all for your work. It's really impressive, and it's really, really fun to work with you guys. So thank you all, and hopefully we can continue with maybe a phase 3. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sophia. So that just about concludes our presentation here. We did not have a real presentation because we wanted to see all your glowing faces. So it's been great. And I'd like to give Ellie the opportunity to give the final, las palabras finales de nuestra presentación.
Bueno, yo no puedo dejar de decir que sigo emocionada y que quiero darle un abrazo a todos. Definitivamente estamos en un buen camino. De alguna forma, este tiempo, esta pausa, un poco a lo mejor obligada que nos dio, nos está dando esa oportunidad, como dije, de cuando regresemos fortalecidos, regresemos de alguna manera humildes y sigamos promoviendo esos valores que los voluntarios nos traen a nuestras comunidades y que también nosotros le entregamos a los voluntarios. Estoy segura de que hay una relación simbiótica de ganar, y ese es el espíritu que tenemos aquí, yo diría, en Cuerpo de Paz Paraguay, y especialmente con el sector ambiental, un área en donde a veces los resultados no son tan tangibles y tenemos que usar tanta creatividad para demostrar que estamos haciendo algo, y sin embargo, solamente usemos nuestro corazón. Ese es el espíritu que tiene este plan de proyecto y el abordaje. Por eso decíamos, sigamos haciendo bien las cosas que sabemos hacer, con mucha humildad, con mucha transparencia, para que volvamos a cosechar esos resultados cuando reflexionemos en 6 años cómo nos fue y veamos dónde estamos en el sector ambiental en Paraguay. Gracias de mi parte, gracias por dejarnos ser parte de su vida, y bueno, decirles que hay un equipo maravilloso que les está esperando aquí, y ojalá que estos encuentros se sigan realizando, porque realmente da gusto ver los rostros y ganas de abrazar. Entonces, Ahuille PM, Haya Yotopata, Ikatu, Angaite.
Muchas gracias, Ellie. Y muchas gracias a todos por la presentación. At this point, we have time for questions. Tiempo para preguntas. Y si pueden usar el raise hand, I think that might be the most efficient way to do this, and I can call on anyone who has a question. I can also look in the chat, so whatever works.
Looks like Becca Mendez has her hand up.
Yep. Go ahead, Becca.
So good to hear from you guys. Thank you. I was really interested to hear Ellie's professional reflections about 10 years in the job and what you've learned about the volunteer perspective and the community perspective. But I'm curious what, for you, Ellie and Alistair, like what personal reflections do you have about the last 10 years? Ellie, la pregunta es si podían compartir también tus reflexiones personales de estar 10 años tú y Alistair en este trabajo.
Bueno, puedo decir que son 10 años en donde aprendí muchísimo a llevar a la práctica la paciencia. 10 años en donde hace un par de semanas le decía a Alistair que todavía tenemos ese espíritu para innovar, para ser los pioneros. Entonces, 10 años en donde en realidad la inspiración y la creatividad fue creciendo, porque sí, es un reto que cada 2 años nosotros tenemos que también ser resilientes y adaptarnos a un nuevo grupo, nueva personalidad y también nuevas comunidades, ¿verdad? Nuevas comunidades. Pero también eso nos ha dado esa oportunidad a que nosotros podamos siempre refrescarnos, porque definitivamente en cada grupo crecemos, con cada comunidad, con cada grupo de comunidades crecemos. Entonces nosotros coincidentemente, Beca, estuvimos diciendo con Alistair, Dera, 10 años, pero 10 años y todavía estamos así con esas ganas, porque cuando vino servicio virtual, primero nosotros dijimos, y después, dale, nos tiramos, vamos sí que tirarnos, siempre nos hemos tirado, ¿y por qué esta vez no? Y ahora estamos de alguna manera aprendiendo y celebrando también. Entonces, para mí esa es mi reflexión. Es como una gimnasia, la paciencia, la resiliencia también yo creo que se aprende, y eso puedo decir yo como Eli Cabrera en Cuerpo de Paz, 10 años, todavía tengo las ganas y no soy la misma Eli de hace 10 años atrás. Yo puedo decir que soy otra mujer que aprendí un montón con ustedes.
Yeah, it's been 10 years and it's very strange. I never thought I would be in this job for 10 years, but it's a job that I love. And that has so much to do with working with just you guys, with volunteers that are so creative and teach me so much, and with communities that are so dedicated and just so open and hospitable, and just, it's been amazing. And I was just talking to Maggie prior to this about another job that someone talked to me about that sounded a little bit similar to this job that I'm doing now, but you wouldn't have as much interaction with volunteers, you wouldn't have as much interaction with communities. And so really just, I know you guys all know I love Paraguay, but every single time we get out in the field, it's reinforced and reinforced. But on the personal side of it, I think that empathy has been something that I've really gained a lot over these past 10 years. I'm sure, you know, the volunteers from G31, G34 may not recognize the Alistair that works with C2. 11 years later. So it's something that I think I never really necessarily worked on it, but it's something that I gained throughout my interactions with volunteers and with such a wide, diverse demographic of communities with whom we work. So that's probably what I would say.
Okay, thanks. I don't know if Klaus or I know that Klaus and Gloria might have some.
Okay.
Yeah, Klaus, yeah.
Yeah, just I never can reach Ellie or Alistair because they're just too good speakers. I mean, I feel very happy. I didn't think either, like This is my 5th year now in Peace Corps, and I feel I changed a lot too. And the great thing about working with Peace Corps is like, I'm a forester, I love nature, I love the environment. And I was always struggling. I was working in this environmental NGO before, and I couldn't see a change in the society being more aware about the environment, about importance like of protecting the forest, the animals and the water and everything. And that's a cool thing about Peace Corps. I mean, seeing where volunteers have been there, you can see a change in the community. You can see kids bird watching, or you can kids picking up trash. There is the real change. So I found that change I was looking for in my previous jobs. I found it here with the Peace Corps, with the volunteers. So it's really it's great. It's wonderful, and yeah, I'm just very proud of you all. Thanks.
Well, in my case, I don't know if I want to say the years I've been working for Peace Corps, because you can guess my age. But anyway, I've been working for Peace Corps for 22 years in different capacities. And the good thing is that even though I've been working for so many years, the fact that I have to deal with different people every year, every 2 years, made me really grow as a person as well, as a professional. And I have to tell you that thanks to volunteer, I discovered talents that I didn't know I had, for example, like being a coach. And that took me to take a certification in coaching, because I realized that my strongest point, let's say, is to support volunteer emotionally, once they are in their community. So I learned that from volunteers. And so I said, why not to put the theory to my practice and have both things and be even better by the time the volunteers come back? So as you see, I have grown not only as a person, but as a professional working with Peace Corps. And we have a motto in the environment sector that says, si hacemos las cosas, las hacemos bien. And that is our norte.
All right, thanks. It looks like we have a question from Jules. You can go ahead.
Hi, Gloria, no preocupes, hace 25 años ya que estuve en Paraguay, entonces tranquilo. Y por eso tengo una pregunta, porque cuando estuve allá, hemos visto que estaba empezando monocropping en Paraguay. Había más diferente antes de 25 años atrás, y 25 años atrás empezamos a ver que había entrada de monocropping con soy más que nada, ¿no? And I'm curious si ustedes están haciendo algo sobre agricultura regenerativa. Gracias.
Yeah. En este momento, nosotros no hablamos directamente sobre regeneración. Más bien hablamos de la importancia de la diversidad. Entonces, y tampoco no es que no entrenamos tanto en la parte agrícola tampoco, pero cuando hablamos de eso, hablamos de la diversidad. Acá, en los últimos años, hay muchísimas plantaciones de eucalipto, muchísimas. Y eso sí es otra forma de monocultivo. Entonces, lo que nosotros decimos a la comunidad es, bien, plantar tu eucalipto, está bien porque necesitas tu fuente de ingreso, pero va a ser más saludable para el suelo, para los árboles y para la biodiversidad si haces una mezcla. Entonces, ahí ya entra Klaus, y Klaus ya siempre se va a los ISTs y siempre habla de eucalipto, porque no queremos que ellos simplemente planten 1 hectárea de eucalipto y dejen ahí y tienen un bosque silencioso.
Gracias, Alistair. So we're getting kind of close to the end of what we kind of called to be the formal part of this event. And we're going to have the meeting open until 5:30 for a more informal chatter, or if there are more questions, those can be answered if our presenters don't have to go. It is still 2-hour time difference in Paraguay. But I did want to thank Don, Paraguay, PCPY DPT, and also Howard, Country Director, for joining us today. They're down there in the attendance, so we're really happy that you could join us. But we have reached, like I said, the end of the more formal presentation, but we'll be on till 5:30. And environment team, I don't know if you have to go, that's fine. If you want to stay on, we might have more questions. It's up to you.
I can stick around. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, many thanks for joining us on a Friday afternoon. I saw up to like 68 participants at one moment, which is just absolutely incredible, recognizing that we started this during the workday still for all of the United States and in the evening for the Paraguay team. So thanks everybody for your flexibility and making the timing of these events work. And now to chit chat. The environment team, has a way with words. I'm surprised that Alistair and Chance haven't already, gone off mute and said many things and laughed and made fun of me somehow. So get to it.
There's a private chat.
Yes, we want to hear Chance laughing.
No, I did that last time. I can't do that every time.
Yes, you can.
One more time. One more time.
The meeting's not over yet.
Yeah, it needs to end with the laugh.
Okay. I'll call on you, Chance.
I wanted to just quickly thank you, Maggie, Carrie, and the rest of the team from Friends of Paraguay, and then of course the environment team. And just this is, sort of kickstarting our series together. So I just really wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the environment team for being the bold team to go first and sort of set the bar high. And of course, thanks to Friends of Paraguay for organizing this and letting us work on this together. And I do just have to say one shout out because I see Greg Mellis is on this call and I have not talked to you in like 20 years. So Greg, please, I want to get in touch. But anyways, thanks to everyone and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Dawn. And before, while we still have some people, I know Alistair mentioned it very briefly, but we are having a series with Peace Corps Paraguay, so we'll be featuring additional sectors in the future. And also this month on the 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern, we are doing an event with Para la Tierra individually. So if you're interested in hearing more about their organization, a little more in depth, please join us at that point. But yes, forgot to mention that.
I have a question for Alistair and for all of Peace Corps Paraguay. Is there still, well, how do I put this? Are you still staying in contact with most of the communities? And like, how interested are they in continuing? I mean, are some still, like, are they still timid, or are there some that are still really excited? I mean, what's the interest level of continuing with Peace Corps volunteers?
Yeah, Ellie's a bit more active with our counterpart group, so I'll cede the word to her, but there is still interest. Yeah, so Ellie.
Las comunidades, casi cada semana hay una comunidad que está preguntando, Araca Épico Uta, la voluntario cuera Eli, ¿cuándo van a llegar? Y ahora yo soy muy activa en WhatsApp, porque mi estado de WhatsApp es una manera de comunicar y seguir conectada. Entonces, y con G50 y, me acuerdo más, 52, se creó, con G52 se creó un grupo de WhatsApp de contrapartes en donde Alistair y yo también estamos. Cada día recibimos mensajes, pero así, literalmente cada día. Entonces, realmente no puedo decir todas, pero puedo decir la gran mayoría de las comunidades están así. Araca Épico, Utas y Cuey, ¿verdad? Y los socios también, porque hoy WWF nos llama y ¿será que Hora del Planeta igual podemos hacer y con los RPCVs o con las comunidades? Entonces hoy en mi estado de WhatsApp voy a contactar con todos, a todo pulmón. Bueno, con Para la Tierra hay esa conexión con servicio virtual, pero definitivamente Paraguay está esperando el retorno de los voluntarios y es genuino. Se puede sentir que realmente han marcado un impacto y estamos ansiosos de organizar un PAC meeting, un encuentro con los socios para preguntarles cómo COVID ha cambiado a ellos, para ver si nosotros también cómo vamos a prepararnos para llegar. Entonces, sí, Chance, no puedo decirte cuán deseosos están de que ustedes lleguen.
Chance, if I could jump in here, this is Howard. It's good to see you.
You too.
I think from an institutional viewpoint, not only the environmental sector, but all the sectors, there is as the word that Ellie used was genuine. There is a genuine desire for the volunteers to return. We get it all the time, and every time we consult, we're always in all the sectors, talking to people, meeting with people. Obviously the embassy here, because we're the good news in Paraguay, right? The embassy wants Peace Corps back. But as I may have mentioned to some of you that I was privileged to work with over the last 2.5 years or so, I have rarely been in a Peace Corps country where the Peace Corps and volunteers are loved as much as here in Paraguay. The closest parallel in my experience is Liberia, where there's such an identity with volunteers and a true affection. And that has not diminished. I think you know that we're coming up on our anniversary on the 15th of March, when we got the word. It was a Sunday night when we got the word that we were evacuated. And so next week, in a way, we're commemorating what someone in this call has called the Great Pause. You know, it's gone greater than we thought, but we've used the time to continue to nurture the relationships. And as the environmental sector talked about the logical framework for their project, their sector, the other three sectors also had what in the Peace Corps parlance is called endorsed frameworks. So all of the teams are working on that. And we also realize that, especially in my view, environment, health, and even agriculture, and especially community economic development, when volunteers do come back, when new trainees do come back, we are going to need to revise project activities to include COVID-19 post-pandemic activities. And that goes into not only health measures, but business measures, environmental measures. And so we need to have that kind of flexibility. But I would just close, besides saying hello to all of you, is in saying that what impresses me as a country director is that the partners, the communities, the citizens that know us, the Paraguayan citizens that know us, trust us to bring volunteers back at the right time. Everyone's anxious. We all want this over with. We all want our vaccinations. We all want to go back to Tereré and all the rest of it, you know, and actually touching people. But our partners are trusting us to bring you all back, or bring the next generation of volunteers back in a safe and healthy fashion. And that's our work right now. But I'll say it again in coordination with Ellie's comment, the desire is genuine. And I couldn't be in a better place myself than right now, because we're going to come back better than ever. Thanks, Chance.
And I just want to give up. We're actually going to be doing a series with the other sectors. So Maggie, I don't know if you happen to have it in front of you right now, but I think next month we're not doing a sector, but then in May, I believe we're doing the health sector. Is that correct? And then June, we're going to do the training center. So those of you who train in Guardambaré or in Areguá, you can now see our new training center in Capiatá. We're going to do a virtual tour. That I believe is June, and I think July is agriculture, and then August is going to be community economic development. So each sector will present their new logical project framework, as Howard mentioned, and sort of what they're doing hoy en día. So yes, exactly, Roberto. The new training center is absolutely gorgeous. It's a paradise. And Klaus mentioned that now some of the seedlings that were planted with C2 are now a forest. So it's really spectacular place. So please join us for the subsequent sessions, happy hours, so that you can hear about the other sectors as well, plus training and some of the other things we're doing as a post.
I can try to send out with there's going to be a follow-up email. So that way that everyone will have it right in front of them in their inbox. I don't have it up right now, but yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah, no worries. And I just ran off memory, so I'm not sure if I got it right, but I think I did.
It sounds pretty close, if not correct. So cool. I heard someone right before.
Yeah, that was me, but I think I just missed something at the beginning. I was gonna ask about, I know that there was a lot of work to update the agriculture and environment sector frameworks. So I was wondering if you were gonna just continue where you left off after all that work of updating the frameworks, or whether they're gonna be re-updated before bringing volunteers back. But maybe you talked about that at the beginning and I hopped on late, so.
Yeah, so what we came up with is what we're going to begin, is what we actually already began training C2 on. It's because we basically said, we knew what the different pillars were. We knew that it was going to be youth environmental education. We knew it was going to be waste management with basura cero. We knew it was going to be tree planting and tree nurseries. And so with C2, basically we designed our training around that. And there have been a couple modifications here and there in order to get the endorsement. But yeah, as soon as volunteers and trainees get back on the ground, we're going to continue with what I think probably the last, whatever the last version you saw was there.
And that's pretty much the case in sectors as well. All four sectors, as Howard mentioned, their new project frameworks. All four sectors have gone through the process that Environment explained today about basically going through project sort of evaluation, reflection, and then a redesign process. And all four of those new logical project frameworks have been endorsed by Peace Corps Washington. So those are the official logical project frameworks for each of the four sectors. And so we will reflect and say, are there any modifications we need to do based on COVID and post-pandemic? But we're not going to substantially change any of the work of the four sectors. They're going to move forward as designed. And in most cases, we feel like they're as relevant. And if not, in some cases, like in the case of CD, I think it's even more relevant than when we redesigned after the pandemic, because we specifically decided to focus on the informal and really on entrepreneurship and financial literacy through community savings groups. And that's only become more important because 300,000 formal sector jobs have been lost since the pandemic. And so entrepreneurship is even more important than it was before.